In reality, the quality of ball they played, they were a 500 team. And that is a significant jump from what they were the year before. And that's what people need to understand and realize. And the other thing that I really laugh about, here's the other thing, fellas, and maybe you'll see it the same way, maybe you won't. But I laugh at the writers in particular who continue to quote some analytics grading service instead of just watching the game. Why don't you just watch the
Trust
game?
your eyes. Trust your eyes.
Oh, wait. So we got Paul. We have this absolute conversation every week. I don't know if you know John Fennelly or not, if you remember that name. Or if you know
John and I do know of each other.
Okay, so John and I have been friends for like 10 years, and John and I used to do a podcast for the USA Today when he was writing for them. And then John was like, Craig, you know what? I'm going to retire. I'm going to just do a little writing. I'm done. So these guys all write for nygiantsrush.com. We started doing this show. We have been talking about, I don't even give him credence. Michael Stewart laughs at me all the time. I say, if you bring up that analytical company on a tweet, one of three things are happening. I'm going to mute you, block you, or we're just not having a conversation. Because, listen, stats are great. They're 50% of everything we do. But maybe try watching the game, dissecting the game, and seeing for yourself what really is happening. And I tell you this quick story because Spiro laughs at me all the time. I got in this disagreement with one of those guys that worked there because we were having this Olivier Vernon conversation, and he told me that they consider half sacks full sacks. And I said, wait a minute. So you're trying to tell me that the stat sheet says Vernon has 8 sacks, but in your analytic algorithm, it says he has 16 sacks? So you're giving him double the amount of value when he couldn't finish the job himself, but he happened to get there with another player. That's not a knock on him, but it's not a full sack. So I started questioning all these, reasonings why they do things. And Spiro says, did you see the grade that Cam Fleming got this week? Oh my God, he gave up 3 sacks, but he's rated the best tackle this week. So we're on board 100%. We are, and like Michael Stewart, you and Michael were talking about draft and free agency. Like my guys, the team, we try to do a lot of eye test. We watch a lot of film, and do we use it on occasion? Yeah, but we
take it with a grain of salt. You take it with a grain of salt, just like everything else.
Exactly.
Well, you know what it is, guys. It's that especially the mass media they're lazy.
Yeah,
they're just lazy, and they just want to take somebody's word for it. Oh, they see a grade, they see a number, they take their word for it, and they run with it, and then they base their whole story on it. But here's the thing, okay? Just remember something, and this is very simplistic, but it's indisputable. All right, let's say, for example, okay, you have a player like Andrew Thomas, who's a rookie. He's making his NFL debut, first game ever. He's playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have a tremendous front and a tremendous pass rush and a complex scheme. Okay? Now, he is making his NFL debut.
With no preseason.
Perfectly frank, before you start making general broad brush statements about a guy saying he had a horrible game, you must take into account his experience, the level of competition that he's playing against, and because nothing is on an even plane.
His ankle.
Yeah, right. See, that's the other thing too, right? For example, Slayton played on a bad foot for most of the whole season.
Yeah, he didn't look right.
Right, he wasn't right.
We knew that. Yeah.
Now here's the thing: as a head football coach, do you honestly believe that a head football coach gives a horse's behind about what some guy sitting in front of a screen in the middle of Dubuque says his player's grade should be? No. You know what he cares about? He cares about, can I do enough schematically to put my player in a position to help me win the game? Yep. And I could care less if his grade is 25, 75, or 93.
Yeah.
Did I help this guy win the game for us.
Yep.
And that's the key. And what I like to do and what I like to tell people is my grading system is really simple. Was the player functional enough on a given Sunday that the coach did not have to significantly alter what he wanted to do to try to win the game?
Okay.
If the coach was able to implement his game plan to give the team the best chance to win, and that player was able to do enough to make it functional, then I don't kill the player.
Sure.
You can't kill the player.
It's fair.
That's the only, it's a pass fail for me.
Right.
Okay? Either you did enough that you didn't hinder the coach as he tried to get you guys to win, or you know what? You just didn't do nearly enough that he had to throw chapters out of his playbook. He couldn't call certain plays anymore because you know what? You were just terrible. You were not executing at a good enough level where you have now destroyed the coach's chances of putting forth the game plan that would have given you the best chance to win the game. It's a pass fail, guys.
And
it's
we
that
talked
simple.
And Michael, we talked about Thomas, where every week the reports were coming out like that his college coaches were like saying like, I don't even know who he is. That's not the technique he used in college, right? Remember those weeks? They had all his college coaches saying like, he looks like a different player. Then you get, the whole Colombo fired thing. Googs comes back in. We also had Rich Seibert on. And the first thing Rich said to us goes, oh yeah, Googs used to hold up the cards in practice for us, and it was just cool. He was just talking about Googs and who he was and how he came up through the system. But for whatever reason, soon as he came back, it was a nice calming force. And I think Spiro, you'll agree. As soon as Colombo was gone, it just seemed like Andrew Thomas kind of turned the corner a little bit.
Yep.
Well, I still credit more of that on experience because now he had been in the league for half a season. He had seen some of the best schemes and pass rushers earlier in the year, and the kid finally got his legs under him.
Right.
Look, Nick Gates told me flat out. He said to me, "Are you kidding me? That Pittsburgh game? I had no idea what I was doing or what was going on."
It was the worst possible matchup for a young, inexperienced offensive line
first
on the first
game.
game.
Exactly.
First game, yeah.
Exactly. See, so in those situations, okay, in that particular, the way that this offensive line had to come together and grow, you had to know the first month of the season was not going to be very smooth. You had to know that. And yes, did the way that they played early on there, those first few games, did they play sporadically in a number of spots on the offensive line that they would have gotten fail grades from me? Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, you're naive if you didn't know going in that they were going to have trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
They started to come together in that Rams game. I feel like they started to get going on that Rams game, and then it slowly started building, and then they look good for the rest of the season after that.
I got one more for you, fellas. You're going to love this one too. All right. So at the end of the year, you get all these rookies who get their number grades. Okay.
I love it.
Okay. They get their number grades. And so what happens? All right. Never mind the fact that these guys helped this team get to 6-6 after an 0-4 start. No. That's not relevant because wins and losses aren't relevant to these guys. They just care about their numbers. Yep. Okay. So here's the funniest part. You then get scribes who quote those numbers and say, oh, these players are no good because they got bad number grades. Well, let me ask you a question. You're talking about a young rookie class, guys who have now had 1 year under their belts. You're telling me that you're automatically assuming that they won't get better in their second year in the league?
It's crazy.
Really?
Wild, right?
Really? With another year of coaching with Joe Judge and the system and experience and the mentorship of some of the veterans on this team. So you're telling me
the off-season training alone,
you know what I mean, is what okay. But but to listen to these people, okay, those horrible number grades that they got those are tattooed on these players' chests, and that's what they're going to be for as long as they are in the league. They can't possibly get better. They can't possibly mature. They can't possibly improve. They're going to be awful. And so the Giants are so far away from being a playoff contender that you shouldn't even talk about them.
The NFL gives them a platform, though, so you got to put a little bit back on the NFL. The NFL gives those guys a pretty big platform, so to speak, because we're on board with you. We have this conversation on a weekly basis. Like, what a bunch of bunk. We're like, come on.
Well, the problem is it's not just the numbers that they come up with, but it's the fact that the mass media relies on them and feeds it to the public, to where now, your naysayers just think that that's gasoline for their fire.
Yeah.
But it's like, really? I would never, ever base any of my analysis or arguments on that stuff. That stuff is like spam. That's not prime rib, it's spam.
Spiro, how many times do I tell a guy on Twitter, I'm like, this is how it's going to go. We'll have a conversation, but if you bring up that analytical company, you're getting blocked or you're getting muted. I do, because Spiro, I gave Spiro my login. He does all the film work for us. He writes a piece every week called The Film Room. We break it down. So, and Spiro all of a sudden now is a film junkie, and he'll tell me, he'll be like, these guys are so far off. They're not even close to what really happened. He's like, I don't even know where
it's tough to see
come from.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, it's only half of their fault. Again, it's the mass media that gives them credibility.
Yeah.
That's just whatever. I'm sorry. I don't want to waste any more time on that.
No.
We love the tangent, baby. We love that.
Well, let me ask
Love
you
the
this.
passion.
I know you don't want to hang out with us all night. You're listening to the Giants guys. Guys, we're gonna produce this up. It'll be ready to go on YouTube tomorrow. Our normal producer's wife broke her foot tonight.
Uh-oh.
So
in our prayers.
So Jeff, the mechanic. So they have a toddler, brand new, a month-old baby. And
good luck to them.
Yes, but the wife broke her foot today. So Jeff is not here. So we're going to produce this up, get it on YouTube tomorrow, promote it out there. I wanted to ask this question, and you guys jump in, because I know we talked about this. You gave me this feeling that, Leonard Williams is
a must.
He's on the short list, so to speak, and they're going to try to do everything to get him here. I'm a big proponent of, like I said, not letting guys go, because if you let guys go, it's not going to be the same. Is there an opportunity for the Giants to keep Dalvin Thomas and Leonard Williams, or is it a cut clear fact that one of them is not going to be there?
No, it would be complicated. If you look at the Giants roster, you could probably find a way to pair as much as $30 million off of their cap with the guys that they have on the roster that they could probably move forward without. I'm not going to get into putting guys out and hanging them up on the wall. I'm not going to do that.
No, we don't want you to.
But I think you guys understand that there is churn on a roster every year.
Yep.
And I do think if the Giants really wanted to, I could probably make a logical case for clearing about $30 million out from under the cap. Now, having said that, what you would have to do with the deals for both of these players, and I think they should try their best to retain both of them. You're going to need both guys to do what Ahmad Bradshaw and Brandon Jacobs did several years ago.
Okay.
Bradshaw was up for a deal, and Jacobs went to Jerry Reese at the time and said, Jerry, I'm willing to take a little bit of a pay cut if it means Ahmad gets to stay.
Wow.
And Brandon did that. And they were able to get a little extra money for Ahmad, and they were both able to stay and remain teammates. Those guys were like brothers.
Yeah, sure.
I see a very similar connection between Tomlinson and Williams.
That's awesome.
I would like to believe that these guys understand they make each other better. They're better on this line than they would be going somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to think that they both realize that, and they would, in conjunction with each other, find a way to make sure that each other's guys can stay.
Well,
I'd like to believe that.
Abrams is a cap genius too, so he'll
He
find
is.
that way to get that
He
puzzle
is.
together.
Now,
And
one of the ways they can do this, and you guys know this, it's one of the many cap tricks that are used over the years. What you do is you sign a guy to a multi-year deal, you construct the bonus a certain way. You got ways that you could also screw with the bonus money. It's not just signing bonus money. People don't understand a lot of times. You can do performance bonuses.
Yeah,
You
workout.
can do roster bonuses. You can do workout bonuses. You can do calendar year bonuses. There are different triggers that can help manipulate the cap.
Yep.
They're going to have to use some of those creative triggers if they want to get both of these guys in.
Okay.
But one of the other very important creative triggers that a lot of folks out there in football land don't really understand, it's part of the business aspect of the game, that's the voidable years on the back end of a contract. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard of it because you're big fans, but not everybody has. You could give a guy like a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal, but have voidable years on the back end so that you can manipulate the cap now to help yourself.
Sure.
And then on the back end, he can get out with voidable years. And this way he can re-enter free agency and still have himself an opportunity at another fat contract a couple of years down the road.
Right.
Now, this first came into play for me. I first understood how this worked when the Giants went and signed Kurt Warner in the spring of 2004.
Yeah, sure.
They signed Warner to a 2-year deal, but there was triggers in the first year of the contract that would allow him to void the second year of the deal.
Interesting.
The triggers were intentionally very, very, very low so that it would be automatic that he would be able to do that. Now, why did the Giants do that?
Well,
they did it because they drafted Eli. They knew they were going to want him to be the starter in 2005. Warner did not want to stay around for that second season. All he wanted to do was use the Giants, and it was a using of both guys, both the team and the Giants. Warner just wanted to prove he could play again.
Sure.
So
it worked out for both.
So it was a beautiful thing. And that's when I first learned how the voidable year system works.
Okay.
And that's something that the Giants could potentially do, I think, with Tomlinson. I don't think they would do it with Leonard Williams. I think Leonard's going to get his deal. But with Tomlinson, they may be able to work a multi-year deal, configuring the bonuses a certain way, and maybe even putting a voidable year or two on the back end of the deal so that he understands he's going to get another shot maybe in 2 years to go out while he's still in his prime and try to get a bigger contract. At that point, you're not going to be able to keep them both probably.
Yeah,
but you could buy yourself some time if you use the mechanisms. And you're correct. Kevin Abrams, who was part of the original NFL cap room office, that's where the Giants got him from. That's where, of course, he hired him from. He knows all of the different ways that you could do this.
Right.
But again, it's going to come down to Tomlinson and Williams, in my opinion, understanding what they have here and wanting to be here and be willing to be flexible so that they'll be able to work with some of the things that the Giants could do.
I got to tell you, this is good stuff. I'm feeling really good right now.
Man, I'm learning here. I'll tell you right now, I'm learning.
Yeah. One more question.
I've been around a long time, fellas. All I can say is I didn't know a lot of this stuff 30 years ago.
Right.
Oh, we appreciate it. Go
Thoughts on Solder? Solder, is he what is he going to be in a team next year? What's if you had to guess?
Well, I think it's very interesting that the comments that have supposedly been reported by him were that he'd like to come back if the conditions are right.
Right.
Is that how you understood the report?
Yeah, that's what it reads that way. And I'm trying to read between the lines. Like,
well, anything could be conditions are right.
Yeah.
What are the conditions? The conditions are I'm guaranteed a starting job. Am I guaranteed to be left tackle? Am I guaranteed you're not going to ask to cut my pay? What are the conditions?
Right.
Those conditions could be anything.
When
Mhm.
does he need to solidify what he's going to do? Is there like a deadline on this?
Well,
Before free agency, right?
I think, well, free agency, but the other thing you also have to take into account, let's say the conditions aren't right and they decide they're going to make him a cap cut or he's going to retire, let's just say. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything could happen, fellas. Anything
Yep.
could happen. Well, if you're the Giants, you're going to be better off designating him as a June 1st cap cut.
Correct.
If they're going to have to, if they cut him, okay, or if he decides to retire. Now, the Giants would have, I believe, and again, I don't get as detailed into the laws and the intricacies of the CBA. That's a little bit too much business for me. But I do believe that teams have the right to actually ask for the prorated bonus money back for that year if a player does retire.
Interesting.
I don't necessarily know that the Giants would do that.
Right.
It's not something that every team does, but some teams have done it.
Well,
Again, I think that is an option. I don't necessarily know that they would. But the bottom line is, whether or not they come to an understanding with him now or a month from now, I still think they would probably designate him as a June 1st move because it allows them to spread out the money over two years.
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't all get pushed to 2022.
Yeah, you don't want to push it all into this year. That would be a bad move.
Mhm.
So I guess the bigger question is, and I don't know if anybody can answer, but again, you've been around it way longer than we have, and you're way on the inside, is do the Giants have a take on whether they want him to come back? Because, I mean, being out of football for a year, it's a long time. I mean, like, I remember reading Strahan's book, and he said when he was sitting on the beach, he had to mentally get in a state, like to come back to the grind,
Yeah.
So like, do the Giants see Solar as like an option? I mean, it's interesting.
Fellas, the pandemic rules and the protocol rules that they have in place, the league has in place.
Yeah.
I no longer am allowed at the facility. The last time that I was down at the Giants complex was for the last home game of the regular season.
Okay.
Right.
I have not been back there since.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of my work, when we do Big Blue Kickoff Live, we do the shows from home.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
We're not allowed there. So usually during this off season, I would be able to be in the facility to go to the studio to do the shows.
Okay.
I would probably see some coaches at lunch, front office at lunch, players at lunch, see players working out. And we shoot the breeze and I
Hear a
would
whisper
do a lot of
here or
things.
there. Yeah.
Perks of the job. Yeah.
Okay. It's all part of the job.
Yeah.
I don't have that right now. And I'm not
Yeah.
afraid to admit that to you.
Yeah.
The pandemic protocols have significantly hindered the opportunity to get a full-fledged picture
Right.
as to
Yeah.
what's going on. I would say this. I can't off the top of my head come up with a list of 10 offensive linemen who, spent a year out of football and they were age 30 or more and then came back and played at a high level. I honestly could not come up with that list off the top of my head right now. I don't think you could either.
Nope.
Yeah. It
So,
seems like an uphill battle.
to me, I would say the odds are probably against him being able to pull something off. But do I know what the Giants are thinking? No, I do not. And do I know what his conditions are? No, I do not. I'm just being honest with you.
No, I appreciate that. Well, I'm gonna ask you this: can we bring you back? That's the next question. Because I know
How much more do you need?
Well, I'm just saying, like,
Be that insider
when we get
in the
closer-
building guy.
Yeah, when we get closer to the season and we get more stuff, we appreciate you coming on. And like I said,
Greg, you know what's scary? And I'm not trying to be funny here, but last year when they shut the doors, the league, shut the doors on everybody in March. So it's almost 1 year now
it's crazy.
since we've all been as media and even in the broadcast department of the Giants, we've been really in a handicapped sense of what it is that we do.
Right.
It hasn't changed. And they're telling us, the NFL, you've read the stories, the NFL is saying this entire offseason is going to be a repeat.
Yeah,
So,
I got my letter right here about about the 17th game and what the protocol. I just got it this week.
Yep. So there's a real possibility that I won't be back on the property until training camp starts.
Right.
And then we're, taping television shows again. So,
So you're welcome to be one of the Giants guys anytime.
To be honest, I do feel very stripped down. I feel like, there's a lot of spices missing out of my pizza right now.
Yeah, listen, you're a pro's pro, and you've been doing it for so long. I'm sure this is definitely uncharted territory, and there's no end in sight. Like you said, you're looking to get some kind of temperature on what the team's feeling.
Sure,
the team's kind of feeling like it's status quo. So I can imagine that's it's disappointing, it's unnerving because, like I said, no one does what you do better than you.
Well, I appreciate that. It is hard. I will tell you, Lorenzo Carter absolutely busted his butt last offseason that I was convinced he was going to have a breakout year.
Yeah.
Same.
And then he got hurt. Okay. I'll go back a couple years, and this is how, sometimes you can tell, how some of these off-season things, you get a feel for these guys by being around.
Yeah.
You can get a feel. And sometimes, though, it doesn't always translate. I'll give you a great example, okay? One of the guys who turned out to have a real backwards attitude was Eric Flowers, okay? Well, the year before they wound up getting rid of him, that offseason, he had taken Justin Pugh's advice and took boxing lessons.
Okay.
And had done boxing in the offseason to improve his hand speed, his endurance, his energy level. It was all designed to help him as a player. Yeah. And he went through this offseason of boxing training because he saw that it helped Justin Pugh become a better player.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, okay, this is probably going to translate. And I remember telling people on the Fan and on BBK, look, Flowers has done some different stuff this offseason, and it's a good idea. And it should be productive. I think he'll be better. Now, the problem was, obviously, his mentality and his heart, as it turned out, all the training that he did in the offseason was basically fruitless because he did not have the mentality to do what he needed to do to help the team win. Right. So it went for nothing. But there's a great example, though, of how sometimes the stuff just doesn't translate, but nonetheless, it's great information to have, and it's great to put that into the meatloaf.
Yeah, sure. Yep. And if you're at the facility, all the ingredients are there. And when you're not at the facility, you don't get the meatloaf, right? Because it's like a big piece of the puzzle's missing.
And it's tough enough because you have to understand, even those of us who are on the Giants broadcast team, it's not like we're tapping Dave Gettleman's phone. Okay. Right. We're not. We're not sitting at his desk. Okay. We're not reading his personnel folders. A lot of times people think, and I do laugh sometimes, and I appreciate the perspective. People say, well, you and Papa and Banks and all you guys are on the broadcast team, so you guys are on the inside. Well, yeah, there's no question. I think we have the ability to have a lot more knowledge, and we have the full plate of the pie to some degree. But at the same time, trust me, upstairs in the front office, that they're not letting us in on those conversations. Sure. We're not getting to see the draft board. We're not getting to see the personnel folders. We're not getting to see the medical reports. And so I do laugh when people say, well, you guys are on the Giants broadcast team, so, you're just saying what they want you to say. Well, what are you kidding me? No, if that was the case, they would let us in upstairs on all that secret stuff, but they're not.
Yeah, Carl. Sure. Carl and I have been friendly for years, and I'm always like, I'll ask him a question. He'll be like, how long have you and I been talking? 4 years, 5 years? He's like, you know the answer. I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I had to ask though. But
Well,
no.
and then, yeah. Are there some things we know? Sure. Are there some things we could sniff out? Kind of, yes. But no, we are not so in tuned, and that's why, and I laugh too, because it's like, if we did know as much as some people want to believe that we are aligned with the front office, then we would never get anything wrong.
Also, the coaches wouldn't be doing their jobs if you do everything.
That's right. That's right. So, hey, don't get me wrong. I love what I do. I got the best job in the world. I hope I get to do it as long as possible. I've told people I'm going into my 39th season. I expect to cover the Giants for a minimum of 50 years.
And
after
hope so.
years,
hope so.
Well, thank you, fellas. But after 50 years, who knows what's going to happen? But I hope to make it that far.
It's fair to hang him up after that.
Yeah, if you go 50 years, I'm going to expect 3 more trophies in the case.
Hey, I got nothing to do with that. I told you.
No, we're riding it out.
Selling yourself short.
Exactly. Don't sell yourself short. Well, 1, thanks for hanging out with us. 2, before those 50 years, I'm going to call you to come back on because we want to talk some Daniel Jones before the season starts.
Well, I will tell you one thing about Daniel Jones before we go, since you opened up that can of worms.
Damn it. I was trying to get 2 shows.
Well, you did it. You did it. You opened it up. So now I got to say it.
Bring it on.
All right. Never mind whatever somebody else's grading system is. Like I say to you, I love Antrell Roll used to tell us all the time, believe what you see. That was one of his favorite phrases.
Yeah.
Believe what you see. And the tape doesn't lie. Well, if you actually break down Daniel Jones without going through somebody else's grading system and just go by the pure facts and what you see and what he did, I went back and I looked at all of his passes. I looked at his runs. I looked at his fumbles. I looked at his interceptions. I looked at everything. I looked at his deep throws, his short throws. Do you know the only category that Daniel Jones did not improve in his second year as a pro was touchdown passes? Yeah. Every other category that you want as a coach, I believe that my job, I approach it this way. I try to put myself in the minds, again, of a coach or a general manager when I look at a team and I try to grade a player. Because I think it's foolish to think otherwise, because it goes back to what I said to you about the pass-fail grading system.
Sure.
I just want to know, is the guy functional? Is he doing enough to allow me to do what I need to do to coach this team to victory? Well, if I'm going to grade him on that system, which is the most practical system that you could use, then I should try to take the coach's mentality in looking at what the player did. Not take some arbitrary statistical comparison or requirements. No. I want to try to look at him as if I was his coach. What can he do? What do I want to use him for? How do I want to set up the scheme? What's the matchup I'm looking to use? Look at it from that way. So I've always approached my reporting as if I were the head coach, how would I grade this player? How would I use this player? How is he getting it done, or is he not getting it done?
Right.
So what I did when I broke down all of Daniel Jones, for example, with his fumbles, I broke down every single one of his fumbles. Was it on the run? Was it in the pocket? Was it because it was a blindside hit? Was it because he didn't tuck the ball away? I looked at it as if I was his quarterback's coach. And I said, forget some stupid numbers grade. Let me think, if I'm his quarterback's coach, what do I see here that I know he's doing wrong, that he can improve on, should have improved on, didn't do right? What was his fault? What wasn't his fault? That's what concerns me more than a number. Okay? Well, when I did this with Daniel Jones and I went through all the different aspects of it, the only thing that I could find where he wasn't at least equal or better was number of touchdown throws.
Okay.
That's it. On the entire checklist. Yeah. That's it.
And then you can
So
look at the fact
anybody
that-
who says to me that Daniel Jones did not improve or regressed did not watch the 2020 New York Giants.
What
They
about
did
the
not.
fantasy players? What about all the fantasy points? Paul, come on.
You know what I told you know what I told all the fantasy people on the fan when I was on with Joe and Evan before the season? Don't take any Giants in your fantasy football.
Yeah,
The
it's
only
true.
one you'd want to consider is Barkley. The rest of them, don't take them. You know why? Because Joe Judge and the Giants don't care about your fantasy team. They care about winning games.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
hands down.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
like, and to your original point is, Shepard hurt, Jones hurt,
Barkley.
Slayton hurt, Barkley hurt.
Yeah.
They
New offensive line.
all these things
New
come into
system.
play and they stack up and they stack up. Now, again, I'm sure there was another 3-4 touchdown passes.
Third
that could have been
offensive,
in.
by the way, third offensive coordinator for Daniel Jones in the last
Right.
3 years.
Yep.
College, and then 2 different ones his first 2 years in the pros.
Yep.
And yet he still did great on my grading system.
Yep. We listen, we're big Daniel Jones guys. Like you want to call it a work in progress? You want to call it baby steps?
It is a work in progress.
I'm okay. I'm okay with that because
But here's
whole
the
offense
thing,
is.
fellas. It's a work in progress that's going this way.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay? It's a work. He's not here yet, but
Right.
he's going up.
If he
Give
has
him weapons. Give him
Get him
weapons. He'll be good.
Yep.
yeah, Michael Stewart. If he's rolling with Waddle or Pitts, you know what I mean? A healthy Slayton and
Different
Shepard.
story.
Yeah, Listen, I'm a huge and I don't want to pontificate about it. I love Pitts, but if they don't get Pitts, I want
You'll be pissed.
no, but Michael Stewart. Who do I want in the second round?
Oh, you want the big boy out of Penn
Fireman.
State.
Freiermuth.
Firemuth.
Oh yeah.
Big
Yeah.
tight end.
Man, when I see that kid play, I'm like, that's like Shockey reincarnated, man. I want
He could help.
Big
I'm
boy.
a big. I like Michigan receiver Nico Collins a lot.
Yeah,
Oh
I agree.
I know Spirit.
I see a lot of Plexico in him.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Big body.
That's a big praise right there. Wow.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
see a lot of Plexico Burris in him. He may not quite have some of the play speed. I think Plex had a little bit more explosion after the catch, but Nico Collins, oh boy, at number 43, I could do that if they don't get the big receiver. If they don't get Pitts in the first round, and they wind up doing something else, I wouldn't mind seeing Nico Collins at 43.
So they can go offensive back to back at 11 and 43.
It's possible.
It wouldn't be a problem for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
I
be a
love
problem for
it. Now you're
anybody.
there, guys.
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. Bring me as many offensive weapons as possible. I already have the 9th ranked defense. I'll keep a 9th ranked defense.
Listen, I'm going to call it 4 out of the 6 picks. They're going to be offensive players.
I'm all for it.
Oh,
I'm all for it.
it could easily be 5 or 6 too.
Yeah.
Good.
No, seriously. Here's the other thing, fellas. I love how everybody is just all about the draft. Free agency's first.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And that will impact somewhat what they do.
Yeah,
Yep.
sure. Especially if it's a guy like Samuels or one of these other
Look,
receivers
God
that are out there.
forbid somebody backs up a Brinks truck and gives Tomlinson the keys to Fort Knox. I mean, if they blow him out of the water, right?
Yeah.
Like Linval Joseph was blown out of the water by the Vikings.
I
Right.
remember.
If that happens, God bless him, he's going to go.
Yeah, sure.
So now all of a sudden you need a plugger in the middle of that line. And
Yep.
you're going to have to start thinking
Hankins.
about that early.
Hankins.
Oh, bring him back.
Well,
Bring him
we still got-
back.
There's still Dexter Lawrence and BJ Hill there. So,
Yeah, but they'll need reinforcements if
Yes.
Tomlinson
You need
walks
depth.
out.
You
There's
need
no,
depth.
there's no question. And but hey, the bottom line is, fellas, again, I like where they're going. I think they're in good shape. I believe that there's enough of talent available to them in free agency and in the draft at the spots they need. All right. Unfortunately, what they're not going to be able to get, the one thing I don't see them getting is the premier edge rusher. They're still going to have to scheme it. I think you're just going to have to live without it. They're going to have to scheme it like they did last year. They're going to have to go with what they got, use the combination of all the different players they have to
Carter
just try to
and Coughlin.
confuse people And I just don't see them getting that edge rusher this year. That's just not going to be there. I don't think, unless they take one of these boom or bust picks in the draft. And I think that's kind of risky.
Well, you are listening to the Giants guys, and Paul Dottino has basically hung out with us for almost an hour and a half. I mean,
was it really?
Love you.
I
We
couldn't.
love you,
It
Paul.
went so fast.
I couldn't get. We couldn't get Soybert. We couldn't get Tolfson. We couldn't get. Listen, we had a great interview last week with the Alex Bachman. He told some stories, Paul, that were absolutely awesome, priceless. About he's in New York, Paul. He doesn't have a car. He's staying with his friend from Wake Forest, who becomes the Bachelor, like the Bachelor on TV right now. Says, "Come stay with me." He doesn't have a car. So he wants to be the first person in the facility, right? Isn't that what he said?
Yeah.
So he was taking a subway to a train to an Uber to get to the stadium. Figured he'd be the first one there. And Daniel Jones and Eli have already beaten him in there. And it's like 5 a.m, right? So the kid, as you said, rep stealer, working hard. He says, "I'm going to be the last person out." 8 p.m. at night, he's ready to get on the train and the Uber to the subway. And he said the last 2 people out of the stadium, Daniel Jones and Eli Manning.
Yep. And that's very true. That's very true. It's always that way.
Yeah, he had some really good stories, man. He had some
Logan Ryan's the other guy too. Logan Ryan's another one of those guys who he's early and he's late all the time.
Love me some Ryan. Yeah, I love it.
We've got some professional players on the Giants. I hope Bachman makes it. Maybe he can return kicks this year. It's going to be a fun year.
He had a really good camp last year.
He did.
Yeah,
he really did.
And
I thought he was a dark horse to sneak in. I really did.
I won't kill you with it, but I mean, he had 2 sports hernias, like before he came to the Giants. He was a undrafted free agent for the Rams, right? And his mom was like, "Look, I don't really want you to stay with the Rams. It's 45 minutes from our house." It was a blessing that he got hurt because that's how he got to the Giants. He had 2 sports hernias, So. I'm rooting for the kid. I had to lay it on him though. I said, "Look, you're wearing 80, man." I'm like, "You realize?" I said, I ended the show with, I said, "Look, you're wearing Phil McConkey, you're wearing Jeremy Shockey, you're wearing Victor Cruz." I'm like, huge shoes to fill. I'm like, this is going to be your year, my friend. Just a really good kid, So
no, yeah, he is, and I see him as a slot guy more than anything else.
He's all about being the slot,
and he had in the camp as it was last year, he actually did extremely well, and they kept moving him up on the depth chart, getting more and more reps and higher reps, and it looked like he was going to sneak in there, but then for whatever reason, it just didn't work out for him.
Well, there's a lot of really cool characters on the Giants. We're going to have some people back according to this letter they just sent me, we're going to have people back in the stadium. You're listening to the Giants, guys. We appreciate you tuning in. Check out nygiantsrush.com. We're going to pump this up there and on YouTube. Paul, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
I'm definitely going to reach back out to you. We're hoping that you'll hang out with us again sometime in the future. And maybe now that we're back in the stadium, maybe we'll run into each other.
All right, fellas, it's been a lot of fun. My pleasure. It's always good to see you now.
Paul.
Thanks for everything, Paul. We owe you one, and and free golf lessons from our golf pro here.
Hey, I'm Italian. Italians don't play golf. We have no tickets.
I'm Italian. Come on now.
All right. Thanks, Paul.